Well, they are doing the piecemeal approach. And perhaps the first piece of that is the Home Initiative. So give us an overview of what that is and some of the details about, where we stand in the process.
Sure. So Councilmember Leslie Poole, who's the longest serving, Mayor Pro Tem Leslie Poole, who's our longest serving current council member. She started in January of 2015. And, a lot of folks who have watched her political career, watched her come up, with a bit more of an emphasis on kind of keeping single family neighborhoods just the way they are. And she really believed in that. And what she started to notice was it wasn't working. It just wasn't working. That the large lot, huge limitations on what can be built, the single 1 or 2 home that you could build on all, 70, 80% of Austin. And she started to realize, wait a minute, the average person can no longer afford this. We really have to make housing easier to build. And so she worked, hand in hand with council, with staff to not make it to where everybody can now afford a single family home, but to really broaden the income range, to broaden the spectrum of who can afford these housing types, and to make it just a little bit easier to build those housing types. So AISD is losing roughly 1,000 students a year right now in Austin. And so that's our school district. Mm-hmm. And so Home Phase 1 did a couple of things. Namely, it allows 3 homes to be built on every legal single family lot. So 5,750 square feet, aka 1/5 of a football field. Had you been limited to a single home, now you can build up to 3. And there's a Home Phase 2 coming. What Phase 2 looks to do is reduce the minimum lot sizes. So remember, those were jacked up back in the 30s, and now we're going to look to reduce those. Do you really need 5,750 square feet to have a single family home and to live happily? Maybe you do, and you'll still have that ability. No one's going to say you are required to build 3 homes here or have a smaller lot. Those are still going to be out there. But if you just want to live in Austin and you can't afford a multi-million-dollar home, which is what those are going for today, then we're going to allow for smaller lots, and we're going to allow for more efficient homes to be built on those lots. And so that's really exciting. Of course, that's one of couple things council's working on, but I think you're going to get to that here in a second.
Yes, for sure. And so, let me ask you about, for example, Houston, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think is a really good comparative study in that we have minimum lot size of 5,750. I think the proposed lot size for Phase 2 of Home was 1,250. Do I have that right? Or 1,250? No, am I off?
Staff is bringing forward a recommendation of 2,000 square feet.
2,000.
And that can potentially, that's the way I understand it. I'm seeing that final draft ordinance.
All right.
But that, of course, that could move. That could be a little bit smaller. It could be a little bit larger. We'll see what council eventually adopts.
Okay. And so, for example, Houston is known for very loose restrictions, easy zoning, and they have a much smaller minimum lot size. But when I think of Houston, I think of sprawl, right? And so how does that square in that in another case where they did reduce the lot size, you've got this probably the city with the biggest sprawl in the whole country, right? It take you an hour and a half in rush hour to get across one city. And they have a land code that promotes density. Any thoughts on that?
Sprawl loves to chase interstates. So one of the best things that Austin will ever have going for it, if you look at Austin compared to any other major Texas city, interstates, TxDOT was allowed to encapsulate so many other major Texas cities, just completely ring them with interstates. And what's the experience like when you walk through an area with interstates? Especially when an interstate hits another interstate, which a lot of our downtowns, think about Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. As soon as that happens, you'll gobble up 100 acres just like that. Yeah. And you make it very auto-centric. It's loud, it's noisy, it's smelly. People don't want to be there. A cafe is not going to survive very well, very long next to a giant interstate. And so Houston's interstates, they really drive a lot of that. Conversely, though, you can live right next to downtown in a brand new condo for half of what you can live in Austin, a new condo for. I've lost too many friends to go to Houston. They're just like, Greg, I love Austin. It's my home, but I just got, a home for $410,000. Like, give me that in Austin, and I'm in. So
lot size is one piece of the puzzle, right? And you can't just kind of point to that and say, "Oh, Houston's sprawling," and like that's what's going on, right?
Right. When we spent decades just making it harder and harder and harder to build here, another fee, another regulation. If back in the day your lot could have had 100 homes, each time we passed something, it was now 70 homes, 60 homes, 50 homes. And we've priced these before. Like, if you're already building a building, if you can throw on another floor, chances are your price per square foot in that entire building just went down because you're already mobilized. You're going one more floor. It's the same exact design. It's just more efficient. But we have all these little arbitrary rules to prevent those types of things. We've been stuck on this 60-foot height limit forever. And then there were all these things that ate into that, causing, different roof systems and setbacks and all these different things. So council is really trying to take all of these issues as seriously as they possibly can, working under very confusingly written state law. That's a big issue, right? So state law wasn't written about how to rewrite a land development code. And so they've tried their best to adhere to it. But as you can tell with these multiple lawsuits that have not gone our way, the folks who like fighting housing, they're having a great time with this. So council's trying, and they're going to keep trying, which is really great.